I'm just going to prepare a recording.
Righto.
So, mate, I've only got maybe 20 minutes until I have to jump into Landcare Victoria thing. But if it's all right with you, given your natural cat herding experiences and skills, I wanted to kind of pick your brains. And if we keep it recording, I can edit it and turn it into, you know, Rick's Pearls of Wisdom. But
Well, I've done my hair, so I'm
oh,
good.
you're looking spiffy, mate.
But that's representative of how I normally look, so that's fair enough.
Well, mate, I don't know how to approach it, except that I think the key, and you'd know better, but was the way you did your agenda and you kept it rolling and kept the communication, you know,
Yeah,
immediately after we did the meeting, we kind of knew what we had to get done for next time. And then before that was due, you always got in touch with us. So how did you come up with your system?
I don't know. I suppose it evolved because there was an awful lot to do and we were in a hurry. So there was no time for mucking around and, verbose conversations. And I had no time to do detailed minutes. So it was very action and outcome focused. And the agenda was unambiguously linked to the key outcomes of the previous meeting where tasks were allocated. And I use key outcomes because those I didn't attempt to document the exhaustive discussions because they were complex. So I tried to distill stuff down to two, maybe 5 lines if there was a substantive item, just to summarise the guts of what we were talking about, and then apply a task to someone that then rolled over to the next thing. And then we also tried to split the agenda into things that needed to be done and get stuff and have outcomes in a timely manner. And then there was a set of longer term, maybe more strategic items that we called standing items. And we always went through them. And if we could tick them off, great. So the portfolio of agendas and the key outcomes from the meetings sort of document the progress we made on specific items, etc., etc. So, it used to take me, I don't know, 30, maybe 45 minutes once the system was in place to get those key outcomes and the agenda for the next meeting, which was known and agreed. We had them, I think, didn't we have it on a weekly basis, Wardy?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
weekly
So we,
every
we
Thursday,
yeah, we just smashed it through. And I think it worked because people understood they were going to be held to account. It was very transparent who had to do what by when. And that's not to say, I mean, the meetings were great. They were really respectful and everybody wanted just to get the stuff done. So it worked, and the expectation and the momentum was set. And, we never really had a glitch. And I thought what we achieved over, I don't know, 14 months was incredible. Um,
I don't think it's 14 months from since woe to go, but gosh, if we
yeah,
take 14 months to do a 20-week program, we're in all sorts of problems. Uh, um, you did make it really kind of easy for us to know what was on the agenda, and I think that sort of like 2 days before our meeting, you'd preempt us how you're going with that agenda item. And sometimes I'd be like, shit, yes, got to get onto that.
yeah.
Was that was that part of your routine, or was that just you were curious by that stage and so you sent it out?
No, I mean, there were a couple of things that we needed to prompt, I think.
Yeah.
But, in most instances, because they were a week apart, the agenda, I normally got the agenda and the outcomes out within an hour of the meeting happening. So, people just got on in a groove, in a rhythm. and it worked because people wanted it to work and people had respect for the process, and we achieved. You could see outcomes, and we were ticking stuff off every week. There were some thorny issues that were that needed, they were on there for quite some time. It, it was incredibly flexible. If something big came up from the mothership, from RFM, and we needed to get stuck, we could suspend stuff. Those standing items we could push to a later date. I think we were pretty brutal in keeping it to an hour and 20 maybe.
Mm.
But again, that's once we got into rhythm. Um, and I was nominally the chair if there was such a thing, and I think I was pretty brutal if people started to rave on and go off on a tangent. Then I used to pretty well cut them off and get them back on track. And but people appreciated that, and there's no one was precious on the whole exercise. We just bloody got on with it. So for other people that follow, I'm happy to talk to people if in more detail about how we did it. But if you want to share, maybe a month's worth of, agenda outcomes that are linked so people can see the progression and what we did and the brevity
Yep.
and focus, then I'm happy with that, mate. There's nothing in there that's, terrifically confidential and stuff. And I think it had the capacity to really be a painful exercise because of the complexity, but somehow we managed just to smash it through.
I think you made it a very simple process because we knew what we were doing at a meeting. At the end of the meeting, we were allocated our tasks. That was then set forward as the agenda for the next meeting. I reckon you prompted us 2 days before the next meeting so that everybody had done their shit and it did progress. But
Yep.
if you do have tips for cat herders, so difficult people or the mix in the room, any suggestions about that?
I think I spent a fair bit of time talking to everybody separately, and we just built up a really good rapport. Everybody was pretty intimately involved in the process, so we didn't have a lot of um, people that were intermittently involved. Like the core team was the core team, and we just got on a roll. And occasionally you'd have folk coming in like from Monash or what have you, but we didn't invite them to stay around. They had a specific time-driven agenda item. Fantastic, they're included for the next 3 or 4 meetings, and catch you later.
Yeah.
We didn't build it out so there was a cast of anything more than about 5 or 6, I think. And that prevented a lot of waffle and people asking questions that weren't relevant because the minutes, well, they're not minutes. They didn't document in great detail, so everybody knew and had a history, but we didn't have to write everything bloody down again, and there was not a lot of repetition. But so getting to know your team and just building up that. Getting people used to the style because it's not. It's I use it a bit quite often in other things now just to get stuff done, and it's I've been around a lot of NGOs, Wardy, and Jesus, the capacity for waffle and tangents, but everybody appreciated it. But you got to establish the cat herder needs to establish the way this is going to work and the reasons why it has to work this way. And if you don't like it, then basically that's tough. So the cat herder's role needs to be respected and articulated up front so that people know what they're in for, I think. Yeah.
I think you're bang on, and I think you did a really good job of that. The relationship for the cat herder and the farmer avatar, you and Andy had a particularly good relationship, but do you think that one is that was the key to making it work, that it was grounded in the farmer? Andy was doing his stuff with the farmers, coming back, and you were acting as a bit of a bridge, I think, somewhat between the process and what the farmers were telling Andy?
Yeah, I think so because Andy was extremely well connected to his constituency, so that was the window into the real world. While and this isn't a lack of respect, anything, but you guys were working. It's all new, right? There were theoretical constructs and concepts. Would this work? And Andy had the ability to, pretty clearly and and briefly articulate what was going to work and what didn't. But he and I had lots of conversations in between about, some speed bumps and some issues and things. And then if I thought it was really material and was going to potentially bog us down or derail us, then I'd give you a tingle, and then give you a heads up, and then I'd go backwards and forwards. So by the time we got to the meeting, if there were thorny issues,
Yeah.
they were generally, everybody sort of understood. And that bullshit that goes on with emails, people whipping off an email when they're upset because there is no other mechanism to sort of, I suppose the cat herder and I fulfilled that role as a little bit of pressure valve is too strong a word, but for those things that were irritating people and they wanted to try to understand more, then I fulfilled that. I guess it's a soft brokering or an alternative communication mechanism outside the outside the meetings, which is important because you're gonna get that. That's inevitable, but you've got to avoid that nonsense with late night emails, maybe after a red or two, shooting one off because you're pissed off. That can bog us down. I don't think we had any of those. Just maybe.
I don't think we did either. But good tip in terms of time management. How much time do you think was as cat herding in the meeting versus extraneous to the meeting? Not extraneous as in like not necessary, but had to happen outside of the meeting. Yeah.
Oh, that role with Andy and getting feedback and then there was stuff with Kim as well. Oh, I suppose, the meetings were an hour and a bit. The minutes took an hour. So there's 2 hours. Oh, a big week would be 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that would involve meeting up with Andy and having a cup of coffee and that sort of thing. But that was that didn't happen very often. So I'd say between 2 and 3 hours max.
Okay. Well, I think that's reasonable for a 20-week period. You wouldn't want to do it for a year, but to get something blueprinted, that's probably a good cat herding. Probably what needs to happen. I think that's within the realms.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't know what the cat herding role was, but it became pretty obvious pretty early that these meetings were going to be the key thing to get things done. And we just couldn't afford the time or the energy to muck around. So
awesome. Anything else I should know from you, or that the team that watch this video should know, or cat herders that watch this video should know?
No, mate, keep it simple, keep it really focused, be respectfully blunt because we haven't got a lot of time to mess around.
Yep.
Back channel communications. Cat herder is not just getting people to the meeting. That person's role is, facilitating alternative communication pathways and the prospect for misunderstanding, and these things when you've got you guys working at that level, at the corporate level, and then there's the on the ground stuff. I mean, that's the key thing we're trying to bridge, right? So, making sure that's built into the role. Yep, and go do it, and it's possible to get a lot done in 20 weeks.
Good man. Rick, and I'll press pause, and then we can have a yarn about the trap rock.